They never wanted you to see this. But the fact that you're here means one thing. You've already started waking up. Not the kind of waking up they talk about in books or podcasts. I'm talking about the real awakening. The one that tears reality apart. That shakes you from the inside out. That makes you question everything. Your family, your faith, your very existence. There's a forbidden knowledge that only a few are meant to carry, and if you're still watching, it's because you are one of them. This truth has been hidden for generations, buried beneath lies, wrapped in religion, silenced by fear. But you always felt it. You looked at the world and knew something was off. You sat in classrooms and felt like you were being trained, not taught. You watched people chase money, fame, success, and wondered why it all felt so empty. You saw smiles that weren't real, traditions that didn't feel right, a system that seemed designed to keep you asleep. While everyone else seemed content inside the illusion, you were restless. There was a fire in your spirit, a whisper in your dreams, a pull you couldn't explain. And now, here you are, about to hear what most people will never hear, what they refuse to hear, because the truth is not safe, it is not comfortable, it is not convenient, but it is freedom. You are not crazy, you are not broken, you are not lost. You were chosen to see through the illusion, chosen to break the cycle, chosen to carry a light the world has forgotten, and that light is about to be activated right now. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you will understand why you've always felt different, why you see what others can't, and what this forbidden knowledge really means for your purpose on Earth. This is not just a video, this is a revelation. If your spirit is stirred already, pause for just 1 second. Like this video right now and comment below. I was born to see the truth. That simple act will spread this message faster than the system can stop it. Now take a breath, because what comes next will change the way you see everything forever. Before you even had a name, before you spoke your first word, before anyone placed a label on you, God already knew who you were. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. You were not created to blend in. You were not born to be another number in the system. You were called, and not everyone hears the calling, because it doesn't come through the ears. It comes through the soul. From the very beginning, you knew you didn't fit. While other children laughed and played without a care in the world, you were watching, observing, feeling, sensing. You noticed the tension in your parents' voices. You picked up on the sadness behind people's smiles. You could feel pain in the room before a single word was spoken. That wasn't normal, but you were never meant to be normal. Your sensitivity was never weakness. It was divine design. They told you were too emotional, too quiet, too intense, too weird. But what they couldn't see is that your spirit was already tuned to a frequency they couldn't hear. Even in your silence, heaven was whispering to you. You asked questions others never dared to ask. Why are we here? Why does everything feel so fake? Why do people say one thing and live another? You saw through the smiles, through the lies, through the noise. And no matter how hard you tried to fit in, something deep inside whispered, you were never meant to. That whisper followed you in every room you entered. It echoed during every sleepless night. It roared in your spirit every time you compromised yourself to be accepted by a world you were never created to belong to. The world trained you to doubt yourself. They told you your dreams were unrealistic. Your empathy was a liability. Your vision was delusion. But what if I told you that what they rejected was actually your proof? Proof that you were marked. Proof that you were chosen before time even began. You see, being chosen doesn't start with power. It starts with pain, isolation, rejection, misunderstanding. Because God doesn't call the crowd, He calls the remnant, and those who are truly chosen are usually the ones no one expects. You've walked through valleys that should have destroyed you. You've survived storms that no one even knew you were in. You've carried weights in silence that would have crushed the strongest souls. But through it all, something inside of you kept burning, even when you doubted yourself, even when you fell, even when you broke into pieces. The calling never left, because God doesn't change His mind about the ones He chooses. Your story doesn't begin the day you were born. It begins in the unseen, in realms beyond this one. A divine assignment was placed on your life, an anointing that this world cannot erase, a purpose so dangerous to darkness that hell itself has tried to silence you since day one. And now, here you are, still breathing, still standing, still searching for truth in a world full of illusions, because deep down, your spirit remembers what your mind has tried to forget. You were born for more. You were never here to fit in. You were placed here to awaken, to disturb the pattern, to break generational chains, to challenge the illusion, to remind the world of what it's forgotten. You are the anomaly the system fears. You are the spark they couldn't extinguish. You are the living prophecy they couldn't predict, and as you listen to these words, your soul knows it's true. Not because I'm telling you, but because you've known it all along. Now the question is, what if everything they told you was wrong? What if the very thing you were told to suppress is the exact thing that makes you dangerous to the system? What if your sensitivity is actually spiritual sight? What if your loneliness was actually God's way of protecting you from the infection of conformity? What if your rejection was divine redirection? And what if the real reason you see through the illusion is because you were never meant to live inside of it? Take a breath. Let that settle in, because in the next part, we're going deeper into the layers of the matrix itself, and why you, out of billions, were given the eyes to see it. Look around you. Everything you've been taught to believe, everything you've been shown as truth, everything you've been told to chase, has been carefully designed, constructed like a stage, scripted like a play, engineered with one purpose: to keep you asleep. This world, as you see it, is not real, is not in the way you've been led to believe. It is a system, a manufactured illusion, a digital, mental, and spiritual prison. And here's the part most people will never admit: it's working. The average person wakes up in the morning, checks their phone before they even breathe, scrolls through perfectly crafted lies, feeds on images that stir insecurity, fear, and envy. They consume news that's carefully filtered, entertainment that glorifies emptiness, advertisements that whisper, "You're not enough unless you buy this." And then they go to work, not to fulfill their purpose, but to keep the machine running, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, live for the weekend, repeat until you die. That's not life. That's programming. This is the matrix. And it's not made of wires and screens. It's made of beliefs. Beliefs that tell you who you are, what you should want, who you should trust, what you should fear, what you should never question. But the chosen ones? We were born with cracks in the code. From early on, we saw through the glamour. We watched celebrities worshipped like gods and felt nothing. We heard political speeches filled with promises and sensed the deception behind the words. We sat in religious buildings that preached tradition, but lacked the presence of the living God. We were never fooled by their costumes of power, because we saw something deeper. The God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers. 2 Corinthians 4:4, there it is. The real architect of the illusion isn't human. It's spiritual, a counterfeit kingdom, a false light, a dominion built on control through deception. And here's the terrifying part. Most people love the illusion. They defend it. They fight for it. They'll attack you just for questioning it. Why? Because the system doesn't just control their environment. It controls their identity. Strip away the job, the title, the social media likes, and suddenly, they don't know who they are. They are so deeply plugged into the illusion. That truth feels like an attack. But you felt the system breaking down. You saw patterns others missed. You noticed how everything is monetized, even your attention. You sensed how they weaponize fear, every headline, every crisis, every narrative. You began to question, why do I feel more alive in silence than in crowds? Why does peace come when I disconnect from the noise? Why do I feel closest to God when I leave the system behind? And the answer came. Because the matrix was never built for you. It was built to keep you from becoming who you were truly created to be. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you feel like giving up, every time you wonder why you don't belong, that's the system doing its job. Because the greatest threat to the matrix is someone who remembers who they are, someone who no longer needs validation from this fake world, someone who knows their worth comes from heaven, not likes, someone who realizes that the world's approval is often a sign of spiritual compromise. This is why the chosen ones are attacked so relentlessly. Because we see too much. We feel too much. We know too much. We don't obey without reason. We don't worship man-made idols. We don't trade truth for convenience, and that makes us uncontrollable. The matrix can silence voices. It can shadow ban truth. It can mock, label, and exile. But it can't kill purpose, and it cannot erase destiny. So the more you awaken, the more they'll try to pull you back in, through fear, through shame, through distractions wrapped in glitter. But what they don't understand is that once you've seen the illusion, you can never unsee it. You've crossed a line in your spirit. You've unplugged from the narrative. You no longer operate on the same frequency. And now, you're dangerous, because truth is contagious. And when a chosen one starts speaking, others start remembering. That's why the system is shaking. Why deception is being exposed. Why darkness is growing louder. Because light is rising, and the chosen ones are waking up all over the world. But there's something deeper. Something the illusion was built to hide at all costs. Not just who you are, but what you're meant to do. Because if you knew the real reason why you were given eyes to see, you would become unstoppable. And that's exactly where we're going next. They talk about awakening like it's beautiful, like it's all light and peace and enlightenment. But the truth, awakening hurts. It's not pretty. It's not clean. It's not poetic. It's violent. It rips the illusion apart. It shatters everything you thought was real. It shows you the masks of people you once trusted. It reveals the emptiness behind systems you once believed in. It breaks the chains, but it also breaks your heart. Because the moment you start to see, really see, is the moment the world starts to reject you. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. John 1:11. Even Jesus was rejected by the very ones he came to awaken. So what makes you think your path would be easier? When your spirit begins to wake up, everything changes. You start noticing things others ignore. You start asking questions others avoid. You start feeling energy, motives, vibrations, without a single word spoken. And suddenly, you feel alone in a room full of people. You feel disconnected from friends you've known your whole life. You feel like a stranger in your own family. That's not insanity, that's clarity. Because the closer you move toward truth, the more you'll be separated from everything that's false. The people who once celebrated you begin to criticize you. The ones who said, "I love you," suddenly fall silent when your light exposes their shadows. The ones who once stood beside you walk away because they're not willing to walk the narrow path. That's the hidden cost of awakening. You don't just see the truth. You lose everything that was built on lies. And it hurts. It hurts when your heart still loves the people your spirit had to walk away from. It hurts when you can't unsee what others still refuse to see. It hurts when you feel God pulling you into a wilderness, with no map, no guide, no guarantee. But let me tell you something powerful. That pain is not punishment. It's preparation. Because before God uses a chosen one publicly, he will crush them privately. You will be stripped, tested, broken, alone. Not because God is cruel, but because he's carving you into a vessel that can carry his glory. And that kind of vessel cannot have cracks of ego. It cannot be fueled by people-pleasing. It cannot be shaken by opinions. It must be refined by fire. The betrayal wasn't random. The rejection wasn't an accident. The isolation wasn't a curse. It was all sacred. It was heaven separating you. So you could finally hear his voice above all others, because when everyone walks away, you begin to lean on the only one who never does. You stop searching for love in people who don't know how to love themselves. You stop looking for identity in systems that were built to erase you. You stop dimming your light just to keep other people comfortable. And you start remembering who you are. You're not here to fit in. You're here to disrupt, to ignite, to awaken. And that means you'll often walk alone, because truth doesn't gather crowds. It divides them. It separates the spectators from the seekers, the followers from the faithful, the called from the chosen. So when you feel like no one understands you, that's because most people don't understand their own souls. When you feel like you don't belong, that's because you were never meant to belong here. And when the pain feels unbearable, remember this: God is closest to those he calls the deepest. Your tears have not been wasted. Your silence has not gone unnoticed. Your wilderness is not a punishment. It's where prophets are born. You weren't rejected because you're broken. You were rejected because you're different. Different in the way you love. Different in the way you see. Different in the fire you carry. Because the ones who see beyond the veil must first walk through the valley of shadows. So if you're in that valley right now, if your heart is heavy, if your circle has grown smaller, if your soul feels raw from the truth, know this: you're not lost. You're not crazy. You're not cursed. You're just awakening. And the ones who awaken will always walk through the fire before they walk in their purpose. But here's the mystery. The fire doesn't destroy you. It burns away the illusion. It melts the masks. It purifies the gift. And when you emerge, you carry something the system cannot replicate. A power they can't sell. A light they can't dim. And that light is what they fear most. But you haven't seen anything yet. Because what comes after the pain is where your true mission begins. There is a knowledge that the world was never meant to understand. A divine code, encrypted in spirit, visible only to those whose eyes have been opened by heaven. It's not found in universities. It's not taught by the elite. It's not sold in books, nor broadcast in media, because this knowledge is forbidden to the world, but revealed to the chosen. The natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him. Or Corinthians 2:14 to the world: you sound insane. When you speak of prophetic dreams, they say, you're just overthinking. When you sense spiritual warfare, they say, you're paranoid. When you talk about discernment, frequencies, divine timing, they label it madness, but what they call madness is actually supernatural intelligence. God is downloading things into your spirit that logic alone cannot contain, because there is a wisdom that does not come from the mind. It comes from the spirit. And when you're one of the chosen, you begin to receive what others cannot process. You see things days, weeks, even years before they manifest. You walk into rooms and feel the atmosphere shift. You dream in symbols, numbers, codes, and wake up knowing. You feel the tug of the unseen. You hear the whisper in the stillness. You recognize when something is off, long before it explodes. That's not intuition, that's holy insight, and it scares people. Because your wisdom disrupts their illusion of control. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your vision threatens their agenda. So they mock what they don't understand. They try to diagnose what they cannot decode. They say, "Who do you think you are?" But the real question is, who told you that? Who revealed what books can't teach? Who gave you strategies that saved you from destruction? Who woke you up in the middle of the night with revelations that changed everything? That's not coincidence. That's not psychology. That's divine intel. God has been revealing hidden knowledge to his chosen for generations. Joseph dreamed of famine and deliverance before it ever came. Daniel interpreted the mysteries of kings through divine visions. John wrote of apocalyptic realms no man had ever seen, because heaven opened them to him. And now, it's happening again, to you. You who have dreams that come true. You who see warnings in symbols. You who feel energy when no one else notices. You who wake up at 3 a.m. with urgency in your spirit. That's not mental noise, that's divine instruction. God is showing you things because he trusts you, not because you're perfect, but because you're positioned, set apart, sensitive, surrendered. And what's even more powerful, the knowledge he gives you changes atmospheres. You walk into a space and things shift, because heaven walked in with you. You speak, and strongholds begin to tremble, because your voice is aligned with the spirit of truth. You fast, and demons flee. You pray, and realms open. You worship, and principalities fall silent, because your spirit is not normal, it's activated. And when your spirit is activated, the enemy panics, because now you're not just awake, you're armed with visions the enemy can't intercept, armed with dreams that map out deliverance, armed with discernment that protects you from destruction, armed with wisdom that can't be explained, only obeyed. And that's the danger of being chosen. You become a threat not just in the natural, but in the spiritual. The enemy doesn't fear titles. He fears revelation, because once you know the truth, you can't be controlled. You can't be bought. You can't be seduced because you've seen too much, heard too much, experienced too much. You know what it feels like to hear God when no one else does. You know what it means to obey him when it costs everything. You know what it's like to be misunderstood by men, and yet completely known by God. That is the power of forbidden knowledge. It's not meant to puff you up. It's meant to prepare you, to sharpen you, to guide you, to anchor you in the storms to come. Because while the world is chasing influence, the chosen are carrying revelation. And in the days ahead, it won't be charisma that saves people. It won't be charm or applause or appearance. It will be discernment. Those who hear the voice of God will navigate what others can't even see. Those who walk by the Spirit will avoid traps designed to destroy. Those who have hidden wisdom will become pillars in the chaos. And that is why the knowledge you carry is dangerous. Not because it makes you better, but because it makes you undeniably effective. And they can't control what they don't understand. So they try to silence you, distract you, isolate you. But they didn't realize that in your isolation you were being instructed. In your silence, you were being saturated. In your stillness, you were being shown what only the chosen can receive. And now you're no longer just awake. You're aware. But there's still one final piece, because knowledge without direction is just data. The next part reveals it all, what you were truly sent to do. You weren't sent here to survive. You were sent here to awaken a generation, because the time for silence is over. The time for playing small, dimming your light, second-guessing your intuition. That time is gone. The world is unraveling. The systems are collapsing. The lies are louder than ever. And the darkness is no longer hiding. But here's what most people don't realize. You were born for this hour. Not by chance, not by accident, but by divine appointment. Before your soul entered this world, heaven marked you, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Matthew 24:14. This is not a metaphor. This is a mandate. You are part of the final movement, the last wave, the hidden army of the end times, now being activated, chosen not just to see, but to ignite, to confront systems built on deception, to dismantle generational strongholds, to call people out of darkness and into the light of truth. And you don't need a pulpit to preach. You don't need a church building to be anointed. You don't need the approval of the world to shift the atmosphere. Your presence is your platform. Your life is your message. Your obedience is your weapon. Because when a chosen one walks in alignment, heaven moves, angels respond, chains break, territories shift. You weren't called to blend in. You were called to pierce through, to carry light into the densest shadows, to speak life where death has reigned, to challenge the counterfeit with the authority of truth. And that's exactly why you were attacked so fiercely, why you were misunderstood, why you were rejected, why you were hidden, because the enemy saw your assignment long before you did. He knew what would happen the moment you realized who you truly are. The moment you stopped apologizing for your fire. The moment you stopped shrinking to make others feel comfortable. The moment you decided that fear no longer has permission to sit at your table. That moment, that's when the mission began. Because now you're awake. Now you're dangerous. Now you're unshakable. And now the time has come to rise, to speak, to move, not for your glory, but for the kingdom. Because while the world promotes chaos, confusion, and compromise, you were sent to carry clarity, conviction, and consecration. You are not just a voice, you are a frequency, a divine echo of something ancient, sacred, and unstoppable. You are the sound of prophecy fulfilled. And while the world laughs, scrolls, mocks, and sleeps, you are part of the remnant that still burns. You know the hour is late. You feel the urgency in your bones. You sense the countdown in your spirit, and that's because heaven is stirring, calling, mobilizing, releasing the chosen. You are the intercessor in your family, the breaker of generational curses, the light in a system designed to dim you, the warrior in a war most people don't even know exists. You are here to build what religion tried to bury, to awaken what culture tried to cancel, to resurrect what tradition tried to tame. You are the wild ones, the unseen prophets, the quiet revolutionaries, the living altars. And no, it will not be easy. There will be warfare, there will be losses, there will be moments of doubt. But with every battle, you'll gain fire. With every rejection, you'll gain clarity. With every storm, you'll gain power, and soon, you will not walk alone, because something is happening. The chosen are finding each other, like sparks pulled by gravity, drawn together by destiny, bound not by blood, but by the Spirit. And when the army unites, when the prophets speak, when the intercessors pray, when the warriors rise, everything will shift. Because this is not the end of the world. It's the end of the illusion and the beginning of the revealing of truth, of light, of you. But the next moment is the one that changes everything, because you've seen, you've endured, you've awakened. But now you must choose. Will you stay hidden, or will you step into the fire you were born for? If you're still watching, It's not by coincidence. It's not by chance. It's because you are one of the chosen. Heaven marked you. Before you ever had a name, He called you. Before you ever opened your eyes, He saw you. Before you ever took your first breath, He gave you a mission. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand apart, to see what others deny, to carry what others fear, to release what others tried to silence. This world was built to distract you, distort, detain you, but you were forged to break through. You've been hidden because you're holy. You've been attacked because you're dangerous. You've been awakened because it's your time. This moment wasn't just another video. This was a divine reminder, a prophetic alarm, a whisper from the heavens that says, I chose you. So don't shrink, don't hide, don't doubt. Let the fire inside you speak louder than the fear around you. Let your obedience shake atmospheres. Let your identity break every illusion, because the illusion is dying. But the truth inside you is rising. You are not weak. You are not lost. You are not late. You are called. You are marked. You are sent. And the world is about to know exactly who you are. Like, share, and comment below. I am one of the chosen. Let the world see the light rising again, because